so strong, girl. I feel you slipping away.
Family Design Board meeting for March 25th, 2024.
Recording in progress.
And before we get into public comment, if we'll do a roll call.
Thank you. I will proceed with roll call. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Board Member Klaus will be joining us later. Just so
Okay.
you know. Okay, and then we'll move to general public comment. So this is a time for any comments for the board that aren't specific to one of the projects on our agenda today. If you want to speak and haven't, make sure you fill out one of the comments.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for general in-person public comment. At this time, I will look at virtual comment to see if we have anyone for general virtual comment, and I do not see any hands raised. However, we did receive several correspondence for general public comment. We received a letter from Barry Capello for Lila Knoll, Paul Kafadar, Aaron and Ryan Famularo, and Tony Milazzo. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, perfect. It seemed like the written public correspondence that we got, 3 of them were for projects that are going to be on the agenda in the future. So can we resave those for that agenda or redistribute?
Yes, I will. I'll work with staff and design review staff to see that those comments can hopefully be reapplied again, so we can see it when those items come up.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. And then the other 2, would you like to? Thanks. If staff would like to speak at all on the other public comment that we got, or are you directly talking with them?
Thank you, Chair Lewis. Ted Hamilton, role project planner in the design review section. Regarding the written correspondence, all that's required for this hearing is just to acknowledge that it was received. And since the items are not on today's agenda, there's no discussion needed.
I'll read. Is the staff following up, though, with specifically Barry Capello on behalf of Ms. Noel?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay. We'll move on to our second item, which is approval of the minutes from the full board meeting on March 11th, which I did have a few comments on. So under announcements, very simple edit on item number 1, that it say the dedicated time that Ellen Kokenda ... instead of staff. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th line under item 1. Okay. And then for the first item, Shoreline Drive, on the second point of the motion, I think you can...
Chair Lewis,
Yes?
the intent was in item 1 that you were just discussing, it was the dedicated staff.
Correct. She lists the staff, so it says the dedicated staff that Ellen Kokenda Design Review Board and Alice Isaacson, blah, 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 have devoted. That they've devoted their staff?
Ellen Kokenda and Elias Isaacson dedicated staff to this board.
Their staff. Okay.
Yes, so I believe it's reading properly.
Okay. Item 2 on Shoreline, and Board Member Kloss, I think this was your motion, but I think we can scratch the comment that says a ground or and just be frosted glass, or did you have another phrase there that you want to include?
Yeah, the goal is for it to be translucent in some way rather
Okay.
than clear. So however you want to memorialize that.
So I think you can just remove a ground or. Okay, and then I think there was one more maybe. Nope, that was it. Oh, very, very minor, but under the question for required findings on page 8, the comment by me, let's see. Yeah, Chair Lewitt, oh wait, I think it's a different page number for one more page down. Or down on the bottom of the page. Yes, under required findings. So the sentence starts with the quality architectural. Instead, it could just say quality architecture gives the good compatibility and character. So we can just rephrase that portion. And I think that was it for me. Did anyone else have any revisions to the minutes?
No.
Okay. I move to approve the minutes as revised for the March 11th meeting.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Kalas,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Next, we'll review the minutes from the consent meeting on March 18th.
A comment on item 2 under the final approval motion. It should be full thickness sandstone wall. And I believe, I don't know that sheet 1 is the correct reference there on sheet, if staff could check that. On sheet, you can just delete the before sheet. Yeah, I think that accurately reflects the items. Thank you.
Do you have a motion to?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for approval of these minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, great. We will take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Collas,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have the approval of the consent calendar minutes for today, which I believe are going to be read out to us.
Yes, so admin staff was able to put together a draft. I have not had time to review this and put my own edits in here. But just to summarize the motions that were made, is that for item A for 1404 West Valerio Street, project design approval, final approval, and 2 minor zoning exemptions were granted. The minor zoning exceptions were for increased height of the proposed non-conforming garage in the setback, and for fences and hedges within the interior setback as well. There were no specific conditions of approval with those approvals granted. For item B, for 1404 Hillcrest Road, project design approval and final approval were granted, and no specific conditions were made on top of the Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance findings and hillside sloped lot findings. For item C, 396 Las Alturas Road, project design approval and final approval were also granted, and no specific conditions were made other than the standard Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance findings and the Hillside Design District slope lot findings. And for item D, 1416 Manitou Road, project design approval was granted with the following comments. That any new windows on the addition and main residence match existing white mill guard vinyl windows. And 2, the detached hobby building's black aluminum windows can be approved as the building is hidden from public view and will match the existing home and roof exterior color and style. And then followed the standard Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance findings and the slope lot criteria findings. And yeah, that is all.
Board Member Anderson, was this yours?
Yes, so I'll make a motion to approve the the minutes from earlier today, a few hours ago.
All right, I'll second.
Thank you. We will have a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Collas,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, now we will move on to announcements.
Chair Lewis, staff has an announcement. If you could pull up the resolution. I'd like to recognize our outgoing board member, Leslie Collas, for her service on the board. We have a resolution of recognition we'd like to introduce to the board and get a vote on here. And before I turn it over to Chair Lewis to read the reso and kind of direct the vote, just want to thank Board Member Colas for all of her contributions to this board, to the SFDB process improvement effort, and all you've done for the city. Really appreciate your hard work and dedication.
Thanks, Ted. And a special thanks to all the women that stepped up because we were going through a major crisis. This board was in crisis about a year ago in terms of the number of our members. And Ms. Sherry and Ms. Lewis, who is now chair, stepped up, kept it rolling, and here we are still. So thank you very much.
All right, so the resolution of recognition. Whereas Leslie exhibited unparalleled commitment to the preservation and enhancement of the architectural integrity of Santa Barbara's neighborhoods. Whereas Leslie upheld Santa Barbara's unique architectural legacy with unwavering empathy and respect for applicants and board members alike. Whereas Leslie consistently prioritized the well-being of the community and the integrity of design through her steadfast advocacy for neighbors, the public, and Santa Barbara's history. Whereas Leslie's exemplary leadership and mentorship have left an indelible mark on the board and its members. Whereas Leslie's guidance and wisdom prepared for the board a culture of excellence and collaboration that will endure for years to come.
Thank you. I'm speechless.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been an honor.
Okay, any other announcements?
And Chair Lewis, since it is a resolution, it needs to be adopted. So if we could do someone wants to make a motion to adopt, and then we'll do a roll call.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution.
I will second that motion.
We will do roll call. Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson? Yes. Board Member Claus?
I will abstain.
Board Member Graffitti?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Anything else? We're good?
With that, there is one more announcement, particularly since we have so many members of the public in attendance. Since we do have an outgoing board member, there will be an opening on this board. So if you'd like to apply for SFDB, or if you know anybody who might like to, applications are open until April 5th, and the information is on the city's website. You can get in touch with Mr. Herrick's here if you are interested or know anybody. Thank you.
Mr. Hamilton, I had a quick question of clarification on that because I was speaking with somebody earlier. Can you remind the board of the residency requirements? I know at some point we broadened that, and I don't know if we recall if we broadened that to county members or if it goes beyond. I don't know if it would include residents in Ventura.
Thank you, Board Member Colas. We're still waiting for official direction from the City Attorney's Office on certain parts of that, but you don't have to be a qualified elector to serve on the board. You just have to be a resident, I believe, within Santa Barbara County. And that's for general public members. I believe for licensed architects it is, you do have to be a resident of the city and a qualified elector. Oh, sorry, yeah, it is the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are a professional with credentials, it can be anyone within the county, but if you are a member at large, it must be within city limits. Does that sound right?
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think if you're a licensed architect, you can live in the county. We do have a professional qualifications
Okay, the general
That-
professional calls.
that needs to be a resident of the city.
Okay. Thank you both for the
That's correct.
correction. Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, I think we'll move on to our first item, which is 1105 Los Alturas Road.
Do you mind if I just make a quick
Oh, yes.
announcement? Oh, I do have a hard stop today at 6 o'clock. I mean, I could go a couple minutes over if we're pushing a vote, but I just want to make sure that we have quorum in case we go over agenda scheduling.
And I think we will try our best for the whole meeting to wrap up by then, but, okay. So 1105 Las Alturas Road is a proposal for a 62 square foot addition to the existing garage, redesign of the street gate, widening of street parking, new brick paver driveway and apron, new decks, balconies, stairs, screen wall, gates, pool and spa, and the removal of one oak tree. The project is associated with a 4,228 square foot single unit residence and a 501 square foot detached two-car garage. The proposed total of 4,523 square feet of development on a 24,733 square foot lot is 96% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. Zoning modifications to allow encroachments into the front and interior setbacks are requested. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. This is just here for concept review. This project was last reviewed on January 16th. Okay, welcome. So if you can make sure your microphone is on, and if you can state your name for the record. I don't know that it's, if you want to, there you go.
Here we go.
Perfect.
Carl Bryant.
Okay.
Chair Lewis?
Yes.
I think staff may have something to say, but I also had a question. There's a recent event that occurred, what appears to be a geologic event that has occurred directly to the east of this property. I'll call it a significant geological event. And so I guess I would just caution the board that anything related to grading and geology for this project should be looked at very carefully, and I know that staff will be doing that, and maybe that's part of what Ms. Burkhart wants to share with us today, but I wanted to let the board know that. I've observed that in my passings, and it's been interesting to observe.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair Lewis. I was unaware of that, so thank you for bringing that up, and we'll look into that. I don't think it affects our concept review too heavily today. So I just wanted to let you know, Mr. Bryant, the applicant, will be walking through your comments from the last hearing. I'll let him do that part. But I just want to remind you, as I always do on a concept review, that we'll be looking for your comments on broad issues today, such as site planning, the general architectural style, and the project's relationship to its site and neighborhood. And also, if you feel the project is ready, we would also be looking for an indefinite continuance to the staff hearing officer for consideration of those modifications. And with that, I'll hand it over to Mr. Bryant.
Okay. If you wouldn't mind also going through any comments that we provided previously and then referencing where those revisions are in your drawings.
Okay. Well, part of the first comment, I tend to deal with this project in two different layers because there's a layer at the street and then there's the layer at the below. I don't know, we'll see here.
And just through the chair to the applicant, I just wanted to mention that the minutes from the previous hearing are up on the tabs there. You'll see plans, photos, your last plans, and then the minutes from that hearing. So if you want to refer to that,
Maybe I
it's
should
there.
do those in order, that way we go more cleanly. Where is that? I think I'm down. There we go. Okay. Okay. Oh, motions. Okay. Okay, so first thing on the list there, we did drop the elevations of the, let's get here, where am I? At the front.
Oh, and part of my interruption again, through the chair to the applicant, we're getting messages from the TV people to make sure you speak into your microphone, make sure it's,
Sorry,
pointed at
TV
you. No,
people.
all good. Thank you.
Okay. Trying to get this to Why am I not getting this to move out?
It may also be a touch, is this one the touch screen? Your screen? and that may help
Yes,
you
the
zoom in
laptop
on it.
is touchscreen, so you can touch the screen of
There we go.
of the laptop. Yeah.
Okay, so the request on the list here, like to drop the walls to 42-inch height requirement in lieu of the proposed, which were a foot higher. And we've done that on the plan. And so if you see here, there's the 36, the 3'6", 42 inches for the gate and the walls. We do propose here just a 6-inch bump up in the pilasters. So that's consistent all the way across. I would remind too, this gray dotted line that runs across here, that is the crown of the road, and so there's a pretty good drop off. One of the reasons we have problems with the property next door is all the water was running onto that property. So there's a pretty steep drop off, and so I know the view corridors were the issue on the wall back when we were met the first time. And I think a lot of that drop will take care of any of that view corridor, especially with the fact that they're a good 2 feet below where you are at the crown of the road. There's a significant crown. Okay, so let's go back to the minutes here. Garage makes sense. The roof line was integrated, which is what you wanted, and I have integrated that. So I brought up the plate line so it's higher. Restraint of detailing, keeping design simple. Don't know if I've changed anything as proposed right now. We don't have a lot of street frontage, so there's not a lot of places that we're impacting onto the street view. Our detailing has been, I thought, not moderate, but certainly not over the top. Don't know whether that works with what the request was. Landscaping drawings at this time. Let's see, get there. Oh, now I got to go back out. Of course, this is all at a preliminary stage at this point. One of the requests, and unfortunately the walkway, I can show you it on the plan, it didn't pop up on this landscaping plan, was originally the walkway that is in this location went straight to the wall and then down the side of the wall. And there was, in another comment, was a request to put some aspects there to try to minimize the height of that wall, and that is the highest wall. And what I've done is just redirected that so that the walkway, and I'll show you in another drawing, that it runs this way into the steps. I've also shown on here for landscaping some vegetation up against the walls all along the project. These were here on the original meeting. To do all this construction down here, our access is going to be through this area here, so all of the existing vegetation pretty much is going to be gone. So this is all to be redone. And then I've done some, these hedges are existing. There's only one existing tree here. Unfortunately, that may be lost in this slide, but our whole intention is to try to reconnect all this to minimize any impact on the house next door, which is no longer going to be there, but we'll see how that goes. So that's landscaping plan. I don't know if there's anything towards the front of the landscape here. This is an existing oak. Idea would be to plant some tree of some kind, whether it's an olive or some sort of something in the area to give a little bit of screening for the property. I think from the crown of the road to the first floor, which is actually the second story of the house, is about 12 feet. So there's a pretty good shot in. You can walk by and see whether anybody's home without ever knocking. They don't want to be completely blocked off, but they wanted a little bit of screening, so it didn't feel like they were on display. And then this is an existing oak tree. We have gone through parks, and that's been approved for removal. So let's see. I think that takes care of the landscaping concept plan. Okay, number 5. Go back to the elevations. So just graphically, I've added some elements that we're talking about doing from the beginning, but weren't necessarily part of the plan. As you can see in here on this elevation, the south elevation, which is the main elevation everybody's going to be seeing, we definitely have pulled the walkway out of the way and then created the ability to create vegetation up against the wall, which is our tallest, most impactful wall. The possibility of doing vines and the like at these stair arches. There's been some ideas about doing some pots on the walls, giving some vegetation that comes up and again gives more of a shadowing effect, and also just some vegetation up against the height of the wall. And of course we have the lower wall here, which will be done definitely with vegetation, and then a fence line and an integrated hedge into that. A side view here is a little bit of a side view that can be seen. Again, going back a little bit, step back for the vegetation, indicated the tree that I've talked about before, and again, doing the same kind of thing against the side of the house and at the arch of the stair in this area. Let's see here. There will definitely, we're in the process, actually we're through the process with parks, I believe, with an approval, but I don't know whether planning has come up with the 1 for 1, 1 for 3, whatever the calculation will be. As you saw on the plan, that whole area is going to be replanted, and definitely the idea is to replace the one oak tree that's gone with others. There's not going to be a lack of trees on the property. There will be a lot of opportunities where, and I mentioned that the 2 trees out front, we may go in and that may be where we do oak. Something of some size.
Just so you know, you have a little less than 5 minutes left.
Okay, let's see. And we do have a arborist report on that one oak tree. And it still had damage. It had damage from the T fire when the house burned down in '09. East elevation for study, done some of that. Lower elevation as it relates to the soften with landscaping in number 8. I think we've done that. As-built stores, that doesn't have anything. Let's see. And then didn't make any changes to anything on the setbacks. The setback stairs looks like that was something that everybody was all right with. Well, anyway, that's.
It would be helpful if you'd showed any other changes since the last time.
mainly just the elevations in the sense of there was also a question from this side of the boardroom, but I don't remember which board member, about a walkway from the parking area across to get to the front door and not pushing people out onto the street. And so I've just created a little gravel walkway there. So I don't, it's,
Okay, perfect. You have about 3 minutes remaining if you want them later.
Okay.
And we'll move now to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I will start with in-person public comment. At this time, I have no slips for this particular item. However, if you wish to make a comment, please fill one out and bring it to me. I do not see anyone in the audience moving to do so, so we will go on to virtual public comment. And at this time, I see no hands raised for this item, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this particular item. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
All right, thank you. So now we're on to questions, and we'll start over on this end. Board Member Kalas, any questions?
Could we see the west elevation of the garage, please?
well, it's a little obscured because I kept the drawing of the wall, which comes in front of it.
I think this is sufficient. If you could just zoom in on the left-hand side that shows the garage, that would be great. Okay. So you have integrated the addition, but it looks like there's a slight change in pitch there where that meets. Is that correct?
I'm not anticipating a difference in pitch. Now that I see we're dealing a little bit with, I think, the straight line of
That's just graphics.
I think it's just graphics, yes.
Okay, great.
No, certainly not intended on my part.
Do you intend to have a geotechnical engineer on this project?
We're in process of trying to find one that will take this on. You guys beat us to the punch with the geotech on the project, so
Okay.
we had a phone call into the office and they called up and said, "City has already hired us. Sorry, we can't do any work for you."
Yeah, it's interesting.
Fortunately, structurally, we're not in any danger, but we do have slippage.
Okay. And, well, I'll just leave it at that. That was my only question. I'll wait for comments. Thank you.
Board Member Anderson?
So the front elevation, the finial at the gate, it's 15 foot. That's just a wayfinding, or 13 feet is just a wayfinding design element added, correct?
This was in the original drawings, yeah, so we're just giving it a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of fun.
Okay. The 7-foot chain link fence, is that above the 42-inch plaster wall on the front property?
No.
It sets
All of
back.
it. Yeah, it's not on top of the wall at the front, no. It's, let's see here, if I can.
It's kind of confusing to see on that one section, site section. Can't really tell.
Understand, yes. I mean, I had a 7-foot, and you know what? I didn't change the nominal, let me see here. So originally this plan was this wall was higher and then this was up at 7 feet. That is no longer in the plan. Sorry, I did the graphic change but didn't do the nominal change. I've dropped that back down to the 42
Oh, okay,
of the
awesome.
wall.
That's good.
I mean, there is an existing 6-foot fence at the time, as it stands now.
Right. But that's much more visually attractive there with that solution, so great. So I'm still trying to understand how much further on the back side, the south side, the pool entertaining terrace sits beyond what was originally there. So it's roughly 10, 15 feet.
If you look at this elevation here, this is the existing deck.
Right.
And so the furthest point out, other than the stair, is this point. I don't have a dimension on this, but just looking graphically at this, I think this was 9 foot out, so I think this is probably another 9 feet. And one of the things I've done is you can see the red line here on the plan is the line of the deck. You come straight out, there's no steps, it's just a slope. This deck is down 24 inches from this deck here.
Okay, thank you. And then on that same note, the tile at the pool is, you've got it green and green like a checkerboard, or is it?
It mainly just a graphic element of tile work. I don't have a tile design. That would certainly be part of what we would come back in with, which is something akin to what we did on the new entry patio. Something, I don't know whether, well, I've got photos
Simple
here.
blending.
Yes, but also with some impact to it, yes. Some balance between those two. Let's see if I can find the... I know I have pictures of that. So we created the tile benches and the tile for the fountain. So that's the kind of, and lots of brick. Now, we did do a punch here with the limestone, but that was to match the limestone on the inside of the house. So we're trying to drag those pieces out.
Okay, great. And basically, I'm trying to understand as well the height of that pool wall, what's exposed, and I appreciate you clarifying the landscaping somewhat, though it would be really helpful to have either a survey which documents the existing, trees and plants, and then a proposed landscaping plan, so we can be clear when I'm looking at the drawings what's new and existing. So I believe you have roughly a 15-foot pool wall that you're talking about covering with vines, as well as another 10-foot retaining wall. Is that accurate?
When you say retaining wall, yeah, this is
Yeah.
south of the sewer main that runs along the back of the house. And this is where that is. And just by optics with the line of sight, this is going to cover probably a good 3 or 4 feet visually that you won't ever see from anywhere down in the city. So that's, yes.
But what you're proposing is to cover primarily most of those walls with
Yes.
vegetation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any questions, Board Member Sherry?
I'm going to segue with the more questions about that wall. That, if you go to the downhill elevation, please. And you mentioned that the wall in front that's beyond the easement is going to help screen the wall behind. But I'm looking at that yellow wall, the vines growing up it, and then I'm looking beyond it. Other wall, and I'm not seeing a dash line for the back wall that would show me that the front wall's going to screen it. Can you just explain the total
Make
height?
sure to speak into your microphone. Thanks.
Can you explain the total height of the back wall, and also then where the line of that wall is relative to the front wall, and maybe zoom in on the lower right portion of the
Okay.
drawing?
So are you talking, when you're talking about the back wall, are you talking about this wall here where I'm
Yeah.
running this?
And then
Okay.
the front wall, I would be referring to the one beyond the easement. So if you could just zoom in on that whole corner. And then, because you just made a comment on the answering the other question that front wall was going to screen the back wall. Is that hatched area that I'm seeing?
The hatched area is just indicating that there will be a fence, which there's an existing fence along the bottom of and so this is a barrier because obviously we have a drop off of that
Got it.
wall. Obviously, this is just a 42-inch high, and there'll be hedging, and we can even do vining in this to help. But yeah, this
I understand.
is definitely more exposed than what I was talking about mainly is when we were talking a little bit about the tile.
Yeah, I understand. Got it. Okay,
Is
that
that
answers my question. Then, so it's safe to say that the back wall is 14 feet, 1 inch high at its highest point.
Yes.
And then one other question on the front side of the house, can you give me the total height of that fence plaster element?
The gate, the front gate?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that total
I think
height?
it's 13, but let's go to the actual. 13.4. And that's all the way to the top of the finial. It's not,
So let's just say then to the top of the plaster above the door, what would that be about?
let's see. I've got
like
those gray lines are each 1 foot. So this is here. So 1, 2, 3,
9
4.
something, maybe?
Yep.
9. So, but kind of, okay. Okay, got it. That's, and then what's the vine material that you're proposing for the,
Bougainvillea is the favorite that they,
huh?
Bougainvillea is the one that they like the most.
Okay. No more questions, thanks.
Board Member Graffiti?
No questions.
Okay. I just have a few. Is the intent that the entire surface of that gravity wall is covered in the plantings?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I don't see any need to have it be exposed at any point.
Okay. And then the large walls that are mostly somewhat covered, flanking the side, is that just plaster, or will there be other detail work
It's
on that?
At this point, it's plaster.
Okay.
One of the things I ran into with this is that those are the existing, is the west side of this whole scenario has a secondary stair that's covering that wall, breaking it up. Unfortunately, part of the issue was the fact that we're really close to the side yard. And so where are we here? This is what. So that blue hatched area is inside the setback, and that's what we've dealt with already before. My option was to instead of doing this switchback here, was to run this, continue down here, and that would break up, which would match this side of which artistically I think I would be happier with, but I was already reaching to try to get this, and this would definitely still be inside the that's the setback line right there. So that's why I didn't continue the same artistic, modeling of the left side. Again, like I said, I did, the old plan was to have a landing here and then a set of steps that comes down and then turns into a walkway, and it just, looking at it now, just creating it as a gravel walkway and giving a planter that can
Right.
buffer that wall.
I know that you're still in high conceptual for landscaping, but the new kind of grove of trees, do you envision these being dense plantings, or something now that you've got the lower wall along the street is still something that would allow for views down?
Oh, definitely not to have big grove of tall trees.
Okay.
Once you get this far into the plan, here, hold on a second, let me get this.
That's a steep property.
It's a
so-
very steep
okay.
property, and once we get, let's see where I can catch one that's going to show. Okay, this is kind of the existing, you were asking about a survey that has the existing plantings in there. Though not surveyed, this is my general location of most of these trees. They're very small. The only one that's big is this tall, skinny oak that had significant damage on it from the fire. And we drop off here, as you can see, these are all, single foot drops. So we're down probably 20 feet from the road by the time we get even down in here. So I don't anticipate any of those treetops are going to get to the point where they're going to break up the view.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll move on to comments.
I am happy to see the reduction in the front, I'll call it wall and gates, and I would support the pilasters at the 48 inches in order to provide some variation in the height there, provided that the gates and the wall itself stay at the 42. I appreciate the change to the roof line of the garage. And just for the record, I don't think there would be anything wrong if the pitch did change over the addition, if that became necessary. You see that frequently. I just like the fact that it's not tucked under it and it's integrated. I would want to see this come back with a professional landscape plan that includes all trees removed, species, sizes, proposed plantings, and an irrigation plan. I think those are going to be critical to the success of the project and masking of some of these site walls. And the irrigation plan is going to be critically interrelated with the geotechnical recommendations that I imagine you would get. And just as, and you're in high fire, so it's going to be tricky to get, I think, the coverage that you need and the stability that you need from a landscaping standpoint, but also meeting the intent of fire department requirements. So I think having a professional landscape architect retained for the project is critical. Bougainvillea is highly flammable, and it's very beautiful, but you might not want it up against your home. And I think something like a Ficus repens, a creeping fig, would probably help green out those walls and solve that problem for you. But again, I'm not a landscape architect, so I would just recommend the retention of one. In terms of the front entry element, I think Ms. Sherry's question was a good one. If you're looking at that being a 7.5 foot gate, then the scale of that plaster wall being 9 feet, I think is reasonable. I think the way we're seeing this, it seems out of scale it seems a little bit tall where the finial is, but I actually like that little bit of whimsy, and I think when you walk by this house and you look at it, it doesn't read exactly the same as we're seeing it on this front elevation. So I can support that, and I don't have any problem with that. I think it makes for some neighborhood interest. So those are my comments.
Okay. Board Member Anderson, any comments?
No, I'm in agreement with Ms. Colossus and keeping it at concept with site and neighborhood. I think we're ready to move forward with positive comments.
Okay. Board Member Sherry?
Yeah, I agree that Bougainvillea may not be the right wall material. And I'm still questioning the height of that gate. It looks like it's drawn at maybe, if that's a 6 foot person, it looks like the gate might be 8 feet. And then if you look at this door right here to the side, and then the height of the top of the ceiling is about what you're drawing here, and similar. And you might want to just check it for compatibility. I mean, I know you said the crown of the road was a lot higher, and Leslie might be right. That's why I asked that question, because it just seemed a little bit tall.
And then the only other comment I have is, and I agree that the vines are going to be critical for softening those walls, and kind of wish that there was a railing that for that last 42 inches instead of additional wall height, because when you're sitting on that patio and you're looking at the view, when you're sitting, you're maybe not going to see the view. Like, you are going to see a wall if you're sitting down, and if you stand up, you'll see it. But it's also exacerbating the height of that wall. So you might have had a reason for not doing a railing, but if it's on a hill, you probably don't have such a privacy issue if you're back a little ways. So that might be a way to soften those walls too.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, Board Member Graffitti?
Yeah, I agree with what's been said and appreciate the changes made. I do look forward to seeing proposed like tile and more of the details. I know we had comments before around keeping it simple, and I think it's okay if you're not simplifying it, just making sure it's cohesive, and it's really hard from the graphics to tell, obviously, the direction you're going. So I really want to see that, and agree with the comments around bougainvillea, especially if you're going to have a narrow planter, and that's going to have to be cut back so you can have a walkway, keeping that looking healthy and flat. Like, I don't know if that's realistic. So I think you could use it other areas on the property, but then for around the wall, agree with board member Kloss on the ficus. Supportive of the pilaster height as well. I think that's it. Thanks.
Okay, great. I agree with the board, and I think I'm going to include in on the motion of making sure that the material board and details are provided for those wall and caps, the tile detail at the pool, and your gate, both the pedestrian one and the vehicular one. I think those will be important, and I think we've all stressed how important it is to see the landscaping be able to help reduce the overall bulk of those site walls seen at a distance. And I agree with Board Member Sherry's suggestion of considering some light railing that'll help reduce that overall height of the wall. If we're okay, I think I'll make a motion to continue indefinitely to the staff hearing officer with the following comments, that the board is generally in support of the project and can be in support of 48-inch tall pilasters at the gates at the front entry, provided that the wall and gates stay at 42 inches. The board appreciates the change in roof line at the garage and likes to see it integrating in with the main roof. The board feels that vines and landscaping will be critical to reduce the bulk of the visible site walls. The board would like the applicant to consider railings at the patio instead of additional wall height up to the railing to reduce the overall scale of the wall and to provide views. The board recommends professional landscape details indicating tree types, the existing trees to be removed, proposed irrigation, and proposed plantings. The board would also like to see details and material palette for the tile work at the pool, the site walls and caps, and gates.
I'll second that, and then under consideration for the chair, would we want to add the request that lighting plans be included with the landscape
Yes, please.
information?
Thank you. I think that will be a site requirement, but is that a requirement for our board?
I think that'd be a good question for staff.
I'm sorry,
I didn't hear the
Sorry,
question.
the question is whether we should require a geotechnical engineer or whether that's already a requirement for
It
the
will be
city.
required at building, but we'll certainly revisit the project in terms of geotechnical issues, just to make sure there isn't a redesign that needs to happen or, things of that nature. So I'll look into that, but the report is not technically required until the building permit stage. But it sounds like it's already,
Then we may include a line item in there that the board recommends a geotechnical engineer to evaluate the design. And as the maker of the motion, I approve Board Member Colossus revisions. We can take a roll
Okay,
call.
and then I'll
Oh,
re-second that with the amendment noted.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Kloss,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to item number 2. This is a new item here for concept review. 330 Sherman Road, proposal to construct a 1,490 square foot, 2-story single-unit residence with an attached 503 square foot 2-car garage on a vacant lot in the Hillside Design District. The project also includes new landscape, hardscape, and site improvements. The proposed total of 1,993 square feet of development on a 29,817 square foot lot is 42% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. No appealable decision will take place at this hearing, and let's see. That's it. Okay. Welcome. Doesn't look like we'll have any staff comments. Is that right?
No, I have no staff comments to provide. The case planner, Holly Garson, didn't provide anything to share, so I think it's
Perfect.
okay.
So if you can make sure your microphone is on and both state your name for the record and walk us through the project. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Jeff Shelton, architect.
This is Maddie Shelton with Jeff Shelton Architect.
So this is my client is also here with us if you have any questions for them. They wanted as small a house as we could do on the site. And this is what we're going to present to you. First, before we bought the lot, hire a geotechnical engineer and a geologist and a civil engineer and the structural engineer to look at it first. We're on a stable part of this formation, but it's going to be a caisson house sitting here. A very difficult site, as you can see on Sherman Road. All the other houses surround this little cul-de-sac, and it drops off quickly down to the creek down at Stanwood. And so we're just staying right at the top, as close as we can get to the road. Most of the houses are closer to the road than the code allows, the ordinance. So we're back at 30 feet now. Other houses are at 20. It would make it easier if we were closer, but there's a site plan. You can see two houses on either side of us. The one to the east here is southeast. It's lower than us, and the house to the west is about the same size as far as height. The plate heights are 8 feet on the bottom and 10 feet on the second floor. Underneath the house, we're going to have there's caissons, but there's some room down there. We're going to put the stormwater management, some collection tanks down there. Next. Survey, we can come back to that. This shows you, we're back to the hardest lot to build on in the neighborhood as we get to see now these days. So we're going to fill it in there. Next, Maddie. A little closer, but it drops off right there. So we're just going to stay right up with the other houses. Next. The other houses, there isn't really a design idea up there. A bunch of different styles going on. Some 1-story, 2-story, 3 stories. Looking back up, more houses. That house to the bottom right, is that right across the street? Yeah. The one to in the middle right is right to the east of us. And where's the one next to us? That one, yes. Next. More houses on the street. Floor plans, can you blow, so we can see what we're looking at here. We actually wanted to build it smaller than it is at 1,400, but we had to have, they didn't want a garage, but we had to have a garage. And there was no flat place to even put a carport. So unfortunately, we had to do caissons and build a whole platform, and therefore the house grew another 10 feet, more than they wanted, but that's the way it is on a difficult site. They have 2 kids, 2 small bedrooms, and then most of the living is going to be upstairs there. Not a lot to it than a flat roof for our panels, and we have some parapets that help hide those. Next. Side view. I want to go to color ones here. They're slightly more fun. Very simple house, as simple as we could work there, and just sort of face their view towards the San Ynez Mountains, across the ravine there, and they look over the top of that and see, Montecito Peak and whatnot up there. That whole lower bottom third is going to be tanks, water tanks underneath there. As simple as we could get, trying to save money too. Next. There's a cross-section, kind of what we're suggesting here. Caissons, and so it's expensive to get it up to the first floor, and then sort of a standard house. We're working with planning. They said our wall in front might be, something was too big up there. We're just trying to, we dropped the house, for the neighbors too. It's a matter of sending it out 30 feet and getting a car in there as gracefully as we can. So that's our goal. Next. And then details, of course, we're not that far, except the walls are all 12 inches thick. Sort of a quiet little house up here. Really nothing fancy, just a plaster house with some very little ornamentation just around the doorway, and maybe some pots on the corners to break it up. And then probably a Corten deck out on the mountainside. You won't really see it, but just something that they can go hang out on and open their main door. Next. And then some lamps. Just standard entry, just some fun stuff so you can find the front door. And then some custom lamps with all the light going straight down. I think that's probably it, Maddie. So the idea was to get them off their boat and into a house is sort of as small as we could put on a difficult site. I think that's all.
Okay, perfect. You have about 8 minutes remaining if you want those back later, and we'll move on to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. However, if you wish to make a comment, please fill out a slip and bring it to me. I do not see anyone at this time filling out a slip for this item. We will move on to virtual comment. And at this time, I do not see any hands raised for virtual comment on this item. And we did not receive any written correspondence. So at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, we'll start with questions. Board Member Kloss?
Yeah, not many questions. Can we see the upper floor plan again, please? Okay.
That's the top.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how tall the parapet is that you're proposing on the roof deck?
They
trying to understand how you're accomplishing
2 feet,
the
24
pot shelf at that
20,
corner.
24 inches.
24 inches.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that allows you to accomplish that pot shelf above the 10-foot plate line.
Yes, well, I haven't got into that detail, but if not, we're going to have to drop it and
Okay.
cause a problem
Okay.
for the framer.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at where it is relative to living spaces. What was the other question I have? We could go back to the elevations, please. It seems like this is really going to read just like a one-story home from I'll call it road way or public way in terms of the cross-section here that you're showing, like the west cross-section and elevation. It seems like road height is significantly above it to the point where this will read somewhat just like a one-story house. Is that an accurate?
Yes, that is.
Assumption?
I can see a line on that north one looking back. You can see the road line there.
Okay.
I had it on that south one, but I forgot. Go to that other one. I had it on there, but I erased it. It was somewhere. Yeah, there.
Okay. So I'm a bit confused by that then, because when I look at the west elevation, it appears that Sherman Road is almost at the finished floor height of the second floor.
This one, this is before you dropped it. So this
Yeah.
line is like
Yeah.
that's
We ended up dropping it, kept dropping it to get the height limit. So I will correct that. So first of all, it's correct, and they both match. But we could go back to the site plan to look at the elevations. But we kept dropping it to make sure we're in that height limit.
Okay.
So yes, I will verify that for you. But it was a little more difficult to get down to the garage when we ended up doing it.
Okay.
But thanks.
And then you're proposing board form concrete for the base there for the foundation. And so I have just a conceptual question for you. I really like the idea of this project, and I don't think that there is, like you're saying, there is sort of no cohesion in terms of the neighborhood and styles, and a lot of them are rebuilds after fires and things like that, and they tend to be very boxy and plaster. This is in Hillside, and so, one of the findings that we need to make is that this meets Hillside guidelines, which typically require that homes be not so boxy and step down. And so I guess I'm just wondering, from your perspective, that's a question in my mind, how I can make that finding, even though I really like the project. And I love the idea of a diminutive house, because everybody's coming to the board with as big a house as they can get lately. And I think really what we're seeing in front of us is part of the solution to our local housing problem and cost of housing is like, we need to build smaller houses, actually. So I love this idea, but I'm trying to figure out from the board standpoint how we can get past this finding that we would have to make in terms of step down for Hillside, and if you have any thoughts on that.
If the geology was different, perhaps maybe on the other side of the Riviera, or maybe in the Sespe, some of it, maybe we'd be more adventurous with the foundation. But I really want to compact. This is up. We all know where this is here, and in this case, especially with other houses around it, not dissimilar. We wanted not to keep going out as the slope got steeper and steeper, and do just as the other houses were, put on the smart part of the lot. So I think that was really the buildable part of the lot, and we kept it as small as we could. Both for engineering and for cost. So I could see, you could step this thing down and kind of ranch it out there a ways, but the cost got prohibitive, and I think it was not smart in this situation, this geology. I don't know if I think it's just intuitive. That's why we're doing it.
Okay.
Do you mind if I jump in with a question to staff?
That's all my questions anyhow. Thank you.
I'm assuming this is completely out of our purview, but if we were able to see the neighborhood context for the envelope of where the other homes are built in the neighborhood, could we provide positive commentary if we thought it was appropriate
To move the building up.
to move the building up towards the street?
That is a great question. It's something I would definitely have to research for the site. I believe the applicant made it clear that they're kind of restricted to the 30-foot setback. Providing a home within that setback, and this is me shooting from the hip here,
Yeah.
might require modifications. And that's something at the cost to the applicant and time. It's not something that we can proactively say we would support a modification because one isn't currently being pursued.
Okay.
I would leave it up to the applicant's discretion and to the property owners here if that's something they want to pursue in terms of cost. But unfortunately, for design review, we're limited to the scope that's presented here before us today. So
Okay.
hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Well, is that a question now back to you? Is that something that you'd be pursuing or no?
The older I get, the modifications just aren't fun anymore. So
Were they?
no.
Were they when you were young?
Actually, 20 years ago, they weren't so bad. But
Agreed.
so I would rather not. I would rather solve it with some, for instance, here we don't have a landscape architect yet, but on a puntia forest or something that sort of comes up and softens that, 8 feet of just opuntia or something like that in front of it, or I guess on the side we were concerned about. Yes, I know. I don't like looking at boxes on hills myself.
I feel like, and this is, we're all kind of stepping in on the same thing. I think it's a good idea because we're on the same subject. You said the adjacent west neighbor was 30 feet. I feel like in that view on the valley side, there's plenty of justification for the 30-foot straight wall in this area. Do you have more feedback for us in regards to your studies of your maximizing height? And maybe you want to flip through the pictures.
The aerial view on page 5, view number 2. I think that would be helpful for the board to look at.
Yeah, we can go across, for the
they're on
next
the bottom
next
left.
thing. We can go back and look back and take photos from Stanwood or wherever, Parma Park maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're kind of hybriding into comments, so if there's any other questions
Sorry.
from the board, Board Member Sherry?
What's the slope, average slope of the property?
As we get on
It's 47%.
So did you already take advantage of your 5-foot reduction in front yard setback?
Yes, thanks. It was 35.
And then my other question was about the other ones. It was about the driveway because on the one drawing on the front elevation, you showed the street. You already know about that one, about trying to figure out if that's correct or not, because it shows on the one front elevation that the street is pretty close to the driveway, but then on the other side section that's not through the garage, there looks like a 5 or 6 foot difference, and I was trying to figure out how you park, how you get in and maneuver if the site section that is drawn through the living space and not the garage. I was trying to figure out how that worked.
I think the site plan
It
helps
seemed
to
like
understand that.
like there was no flat area outside the garage, or can you go back to the site plan maybe really quick?
Yeah, that retaining wall got taller and taller as we kept dropping the building down right there. And
Yeah.
I think planning had something to say about that. So, we just, once we went out 30 feet, we didn't have a lot of choices.
Yeah.
So that was our predicament. I apologize for the 2 different drawings there, but we were sort of moving in tandem here and
That's
kept
all right.
dropping things.
We'll
Yeah,
figure it
at this
out.
point, and not meant to deceive. We'll get it figured out. What's the floor level of that right there?
The garage.
Do we have it on there?
Yeah.
396. 396.
Okay, go down to the bottom of the driveway.
Done.
No, down.
Which is where
That
close
answers
to
my
where the
question,
apron
thanks.
is. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
396.
4 feet lower than that lower part right now. Where you come in and you go down 4 feet and, yeah.
That's it, thanks.
Okay, any other questions, or we can move to
And we'll-
comments? Okay, Board Member Colossus, you want to start?
Yeah, I support the project. I think that seeing some landscaping on the, some landscaping information in subsequent submittals for the north side would be helpful to maybe assuage some concerns about the verticality of that. I think it's restrained in its detailing. It's simple and yet it's soft. Correct materials for the area in terms of high fire. I think it's really going to read like a 1-story or a 1.5 from the street, given the fact that it's being depressed on the site. So I think that's actually respectful of the neighboring home that's kind of, I'll call it hacienda style. And kudos to the applicant for trying to comply with the required front property lines. Yeah, I don't really have any negative comments or anything constructive. I think it's a good project. Again, I appreciate the small diminutive nature of it. We need more of it.
All right, Board Member Anderson?
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, you've juggled all the constraints well. Initially came in with the max height being, somewhat concerning, but hiding the photovoltaics and given the information you provided, I'm accepting of that. So, yeah, thanks.
Great. Board Member Sherry?
Yeah, I support the project wholeheartedly. I am not a stranger to designing a house on a hill, and I completely understand the challenges. So I think you've done a really good job, and I don't blame you for wanting to stay out of the mod zone. And I can support the 2-story volume because of, for one, the orientation on the downhill side and the design itself, and also just the size of the house. And I think it's a really good way of accomplishing efficient construction and keeping the cost down. Yeah.
Great. Overall, I really like the project. I think I really do want to be mindful of guidelines, though, and how we think about second story. And so I know we have a lot of comments that can help kind of make that finding around, obviously, the neighborhood is very eclectic, the size of the home, potential landscaping, how it reads from the street. So, if all of those things kind of check off and it's more clear, I think I'd be more comfortable making that finding. And we're just here for concept today, but that's definitely on my mind just because I want to make sure we're following our guidelines that we have. And there are a lot of boxy homes on the street, but there aren't any that are a box, kind of, for lack of a better term. So that's just the one thing that's on my mind. Outside of the guidebook, obviously, I think it's a beautiful home as is, but I just want to be mindful of that. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I think one recommendation on that might help board members would be a quick sketch into your aerial view. I think the one thing that really helps is the general scale of this project is so small compared to your neighbors that I really do think that it will not be an issue stepping down, even though that is something that we're looking for, is that kind of step down with the hillside. And I think given the uniqueness of the site and in comparison to the surrounding homes. And then I think from here, it's really us taking a look at some of the detailing and colors proposed for the windows and the tile work. And I think that those we're going to be excited to see, and I think will help. I think one of the things too is because it sits so low, will be us really looking at what happens there on the second story from the street view aspect. Right now, a lot of the detailing is happening down on the lower level, but that's not going to be as apparent. And agree with the comments about the landscaping. Does anyone else have any additional comments?
It may be helpful to have some photos for the next meeting from Stanwood.
Yeah.
I think that would help to assuage some of the concerns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can't see it.
You can't see much, but we'll get
Perfect.
what we can get. We'll
That's
have a
what we're- that's
landscape
what we're
architect
looking
on board
for.
too,
There you go.
at this point.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion? Otherwise, I will.
I can
Okay.
move or make a motion that the board generally is in support of your project, and we're not going to show, right? Or do we?
No.
No, okay. With the following positive comments. One, we look forward to landscape plans to help soften the downward backside of the home, north. We also look forward to more information and details on all your materials and quality architecture that you provided. And yes, if you can provide any additional photos of from Stanwood, pictures, and clarity, again, clarity on the street elevation in regards to, you know, what's visible of the home on the front of Sherman Road. You did have a section I saw that was the 404, and it is primarily, you know, that upper floor that we're reading. So just if you could clarify that for your next submittal, that would be wonderful. And yes, the board is generally positive and in support of the project overall.
Second.
Under discussion, I'm trying to do some quick math here. It looks like the road's at roughly 404, and I think the elevation of that driveway court, I'll call it, is roughly 8 feet below that.
Right.
So it's a pretty sizable retaining wall, and I'm hearing from the applicant that there's some conversations going on with staff about that. So my question for the board is whether we would want to include positive comments about that retaining wall at this juncture. I would not have any problem doing that because I really don't think it's visible from the street, nor will it be visible from the north or from Stanwood. So I would be happy to include that if the makers and the seconder of the motion are comfortable doing that.
Board Member Sherry? Okay. I see a nod of the head, yes.
Yes.
Do you want to put that in a sentence? The maker of the motion?
The board is accepting of the retaining wall or the height of the retaining wall in relation to the street elevation due to the placement of the building. I don't know, you don't have a height on it, so I can't really comment on how high it is, but
Yeah, if I
We're
may,
gonna
I
find
would
that
just, if I may, I would suggest that the language just be something along the lines that the board can support the retaining wall that exceeds typical heights within the front setback.
Yeah, because in case an MZE is needed.
Yeah, we would support that, yeah.
Okay, we can do a roll call.
Yes. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson,
yes.
Board Member Claus,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, appreciate it, thanks.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. And a protocol question. Do I state for the record the next item and then recuse myself, or do that now?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and state the item and
Okay.
then state that you're going to recuse yourself, and then the vice chair can invite the applicant up to the laptop. Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving on to our third item here, 2310 Chapala Street. This is a proposal, this is a one-time pre-application consultation.
Can we recess for 5?
Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to take a 5-minute break, actually.
Sorry.
Thank
We
you.
need to use the restroom.
Yes, yes, okay.
Technicalities.
our break time is over, is that right? Or where is Sebastian? Oh, there we go.
He's speaking with the.
Okay, we'll wait a few more seconds.
Okay, I am
Okay,
back.
we are
yeah.
back. This is item number 3, a one-time pre-application consultation for 2310 Chapala Street. I think we're going to get some clarity here on our proposals, but I'm going to read them both into the record. So, proposal for conversion of an existing 2,456 church into a two-family residence with a minor 37-square-foot addition, a new 844-square-foot garage with an accessory dwelling unit atop, with 80 square feet of exterior stairs is proposed. The ADU is under the board's purview. The total proposed 4,181 square feet, excluding steps, on a 16,817 square foot lot is 96% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. It's a proposal to convert the existing single-story 2,456 square foot church into a single-unit residence and construct a minor 37 square foot addition. A detached 1,768 square foot accessory structure is proposed, including a first-floor garage and workshop and second-floor accessory dwelling unit. The ADU is under SFDB purview. This one says that our FAR is at 97%.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. I'm sorry I did not catch that earlier in reviewing this agenda. The second scope of work is the accurate one. That is one that I rewrote and clarified. So we can disregard the first scope
one?
of work at the
Okay.
top. Correct, yes. Apologies for that
Thank
confusion.
you. Okay.
But it is the second scope of work.
Okay, so this is a pre-application consultation. No final appealable decision will take place today, but we will provide preservation findings later when it's submitted under a planning application. So at this point, I will recuse myself from this item. Do I have to read anything?
No,
Because I work for the firm that is in front of us today.
excellent. And then if you just want to hand it off to
I will
Vice Chair Anderson.
hand it over to Vice Chair Anderson to chair this item, and then I will be back for item 4.
Thank you.
Okay, Sebastian, do we have any further staff comments, or maybe you want to touch on the zoning? Because I know that there's some comments already on that, but
Yeah, so for this project, so for pre-application consultations, is that there hasn't been an official submittal of a planning case. So this has not been reviewed for zoning compliance, stormwater compliance, what have you, from the land development team. So we essentially just take in what is submitted and put it in front of the board for initial initial comments and feedback. So I have no staff comments to provide, other than the ADU, the accessory dwelling unit, is, as proposed, would be under design review purview, because it is a second story where there's only a single story on the current parcel. So that was clarified with the applicant as well as in the secondary scope of work. Thank you.
okay, hi.
Hi.
Welcome, how we doing?
Good.
Have
Good
you had your
afternoon.
chocolate?
Thank you for having us. I want to provide several clarifications. We do have an active PLN application. We have one round of comments that came back. Our planner, Tony, has retired. We're working on our civil engineering drawings and our landscape drawings before we resubmit. We wanted to take this opportunity to get the early feedback on this really cool adaptive reuse of the church conversion component only. That will be tied to, and part of that PLN application is a lot split. So this will be a split lot, and the proposal right now in front of you is the residential conversion with ADU. The statistic also was slightly incorrect on that slide. The addition is 48 square feet instead of 37, which is fine. And the FAR with the ADU with the subdivision is 96%. Without the ADU, it's 72%. So we're here with our project team who will walk through the plans and answer any questions. We're open to your comments.
I missed your name.
Heidi
And-
Dones.
Okay, and you're with?
I'm the
architect?
agent.
Okay, you're the agent. Okay,
And then Anthony Grumbine, architect with Harrison Design.
okay.
And Qing Xue from Harrison Design as well.
So, architect, agent, planner.
Got it. Okay, yes, if you could please present your project to us. Thoroughly,
Yeah, it's kind of like
as
that,
thoroughly as possible in your time allotment.
All right, thank you. Okay, so looking at our sort of starting on our first sheet, you can see in yellow the lot, as you see, it's 3 times the normal lot size, and so we're actually going to be splitting it in half, and the church portion is on the upper portion, and so it's adaptive reuse. We're excited about that. The greenest building is the one you don't knock down. So, all right, so here's at the aerial here, here's a church, a current, and we're basically going to do a lot split here, turn the church into a house with a minor little addition here, and then a garage with an ADU on top of it there. So fairly straightforward. Our, okay, I'll just zoom in here. This is our main street frontage is, there we go, on H here. That's what it looks like from the front. Simple little church building, and then to the side of it is this little house right here next to it. And here you can see the church building. Oh, sorry, maybe I got that one. I mean, I think that's the neighbor across. Maybe this one is it. We might have gotten those images
I think
reversed.
you had it right the first time.
Oh, okay. I shouldn't listen to the crowd behind me. All right. Okay, so here is a survey of the lot. Whoa. All right, stay. Okay, sorry, I won't get the hang of this. Here's a survey of the lot, parking, big oak tree, existing church. Pretty straight.
Yeah, the oak tree's going to be protected, by the way. We saw some public comment about it. Everything's proposed outside the drip line, and we will have an arborist report with recommendations for protection during construction.
Yep, exactly. And then go. Sorry, there's the demo site plan. So this is just demoing the asphalt. And then here's proposed, our new lot line here. I proposed ADU or with garage below and the ADU above. And then here's a small little addition here on the side. All right, and then here's the floor plan of the church, the main stage here, and the demo and proposed reuse of it with the main space, tall ceiling, and then the other side spaces as bedrooms. And then here's the demo elevations, fairly straightforward. One of the things to notice is that how tall they are, so they're kind of clear story, they're proper for a church, you know, windows up above, but for a home, they're not great. So part of our proposed is to just bring the windows down more. We're also working with the structural engineer to make sure we don't remove too much of the wall, because then we'll have to upgrade everything to current code, which will be extremely expensive. So we're trying to keep it to the same amount of openings that there is now, but just provide proper light and air for as a home. And sort of, here's that side elevation. We're also going to divide the porch so that there's a front porch. This is facing the street over here. And we're having a plaster wall here that divides the porch, and so they have a little back porch area and a front porch area. And then here, we're dressing up the front a little more, taking a little more Spanish, and giving it some character so it doesn't look as simple as a little church. And we're leaving this arch the way it is, a few little nice lights and windows, and sort of a main arched window as well, window with wrought iron grills. Oh yeah, materials, plaster to match existing Spanish tile roof. And then when we go to the ADU and garage, we're matching those. Spanish tile roof, plaster detail and materials as well. The doors and windows on the main residence and the ADU are proposed to be either a clad or a steel. So keeping in language with the Spanish colonial revival, 20s, 30s. So here's the little ADU above, the nice little stair out on the back side. Here's the garage below and a workshop. This is just part of the garage and workshop. It's not an actual workshop as a business or anything. I think there was some confusion from public comment as well.
Right, it's not a commercial use in any way, it's just residential.
Yeah, I think it might have been the description was a little bit confusing. It looked like we were changing into a two-family residence and then changing it again. So no, this is just a workshop that's based in the garage. And then here's the elevation. This is the back elevation. Nice little Spanish stair going up to the ADU, and a little overhang. This is the side elevation that's facing what is the parking lot now. Sort of simpler. Oh, sorry. Well, this is facing the main residence, and then this is facing the parking lot. So on the simpler side, and then this is facing the front street. So it sort of has the most detail. It still plays minor to the house, the new house, what was the church, with a little bit simpler details, but at the same time, it's still proper within the language. Nice little Spanish, buttress wall here, carriage-style doors, and yeah, pretty straightforward. And then our materials are here: copper gutters, terracotta tile for some of the paving, and Spanish mission tile for roof and plaster. And then here's the clad color we're proposing for the steel doors and windows, and the other clad doors and windows. And a little light as well. So that's kind of where we are. Did I miss anything, or? Okay. All right, so extra time.
Thank you. So now we will move to public comment.
Thank you, Vice Chair Anderson. I will start with in-person public comment. I do have slips, so as I call your name, please come up to the podium. You will have 2 minutes to speak. We will start with Melinda Douglas, please.
Hi, Melinda Douglas.
Oh, yeah. Point the mic and turn on the mic. And
Melinda Douglas. I live actually across the street. And my questions have a lot to do with density on that corner and putting it into split lots, parking, ensuring there's off-street parking, and also understanding what the short-term rental arrangements are for those ADUs. We have a problem with that with other houses that have added ADUs and turned them into illegal Airbnbs. Drainage is also a huge problem on our street. We have had conversations with the city, but we flood in almost every single storm. And so if there's any water routing that happens from that property, it will flood directly into our yard. So water and getting some geo studies on that will be very important for us.
Thank you. Next, we have Patricia Rice.
Good afternoon. I'm Patricia Rice. My property would be number 8, lot number 8. I am directly in the middle of the 3 lots that make up the church and the parking lot. I'm right in the middle, and the tree is right. It canopies my entire yard. Oh, sorry. It canopies my entire yard from one end to the other. And my concern is that as I look at the plans, I was very gratified that the garage was not right up toward the back. However, there's not a lot of recreational, outdoor, let's have a barbecue and a barbecue table space where that church is. There's a little bit of room behind, and then the rest of it's going to be under that tree. And I'm just worried about what additional hardscape might do to the roots. I know that oak trees have very serious problems with too much water and drainage, and so I was very gratified to hear that you're going to have an arborist look at it. But it's just a majestic tree, and it's my, that's my favorite thing about my house. And I just think it would be a tragedy to lose that tree, and every effort has to be made to divert water and make sure it's nothing is built on that. And I'm just worried that that's going to be the only backyard they have, is right directly under that tree. So I think that should be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Allison Brisk.
Hello, I live at 2318, which is right next door. That's the little white and blue house that is right next door. And the way the lots are very small in our neighborhood, and the density is already very high, and we have had problems with ADUs, and we've got a lot of houses behind houses and on top of houses. My house is, there's the driveway, and then it is about 5 feet from the church. There is very, very little separation. So I am intensely concerned with the density. And the way I read it, even with a single family in the church and then the ADU, and then you're going to convert the other lot, right? There's going to be some sort of a residence there. So we're going to take an area that has had 0 residency, and there are going to be 8, 10, 12 people. I don't see any provision for parking. I wonder about water. I wonder about waste management. I wonder about traffic usage, noise. I don't see any consideration or accommodation of those factors. I'm the one that posted the comment about what the workshop's going to be used for. I'd like to furthermore point out that for all of these things, the boundary between my house and the 5 feet away church is a hedge. There's no fence. And so it's a tall, thick hedge, but preservation of the hedge and construction of some sort of a barrier that I can see occasionally into the church. They can see, I mean, it's once a week, it's fine, but to have people actually living there and to have at least 2 sets of people, at least 2 households of people living there with an ADU, and it's not clear who owns it, who rents it, who controls it. And again, where's the garbage? Where's the water? Where is the waste disposal, the traffic, the parking, right? We live in a very dense neighborhood, and I don't see any thought or plan or accommodation to any of this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Bloom.
Hi there. Hi. I have no relation to this project at all. I just saw it come up on the docket, and I just wanted to say it's a very, very cool project. What a great way to add some density downtown in a very sustainable way and provide sustainable transportation options to jobs and amenities. And I think it's a great use of the space in an otherwise underutilized lot.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments for this particular item? Okay, we will move.
I live at 112 West Pueblo Street, which is down the street from this project. And it's one house away, and I have a sunken yard in the backyard. And when it rains really hard, that water gets over my head up to here in my backyard. And then there's a hole like this big that it goes through.
Please step up to the mic.
Oh, sorry. It goes up to, the hole's only this big. Fire department's been there, everybody's been there. Nothing's been done. And it goes into my tenants' yard. My tenants got flooded 3 times like in the last 2 years. And then it seems to be getting worse every year. And I don't know what, it's just because of the rain or, but anyway, it's just, that's all I can say. I mean, I don't know if the creek goes through that property or not. I don't know. I don't know where the water comes from. If it goes underneath the church, I don't know. But it comes from somewhere, and like I said, it floods everything, everybody, all of us. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move on to virtual public comment. At this time, I do not see any hands raised for this particular item. And we did receive written correspondence on this item from Sue Wu, Allison Brisk, and Patricia Rice. And so at that, I can turn it back over to you, Vice Chair Anderson.
Okay, we will move forward with questions from the board. Anybody want to go first, or I'll start with Leslie to the right?
I'll start. I'm going to ask some questions that will hopefully address some of the items from public commenters, both written and today. And the first thing I'd like to start with is just sort of a diatribe and some information for a couple of the speakers. So first of all, when there's a church, this is just some background information in regards to legal use of spaces, okay? So when a church is in a residential zone, it operates under a conditional use permit typically. So the fact that this church is being converted to a residence actually brings it into greater conformance with the underlying use of this neighborhood than it currently existed under. Which a lot of times we're asked to be giving support for things that are exceptions. Today we're asked to look at something that's actually coming into conformance. So it makes our life a little bit easier, just to let you know that. The second thing that I want the speakers to be aware of is the fact that state law now allows for any residential lot to be split. And the ensuing result of that is that you can have a residence placed upon it and an ADU. So any lot in our town that has not been split under this new state law the result can be 4 homes on a house, on a parcel that right now has 1, okay? If you don't like that, vote differently, talk to your local and state representatives. That's the only thing that's going to change it. We have no purview over that. We cannot deny that, okay? So what's being put in front of us right now is completely legal, and we have no grounds for pushing back against that subdivision. So I just want you to understand that. Okay, that being said, the drainage concerns. So it sounds like there is maybe an underground drainage culvert or something that is in this area that may run from above it and then through the property and down onto Chapala Street. Are you aware of any easement or anything that's recorded in regards to that against their property? Or
Yes.
have you started dealing with that at all?
Yeah, thank you. We do have a civil engineer on board. So in terms of stormwater, you have to treat, retain, and comply with your tiering triggers. And we're assuming a Tier 3 or Tier 4 compliance for the project, which is being developed. So we have to manage stormwater. And there is an existing city storm drain, but it's underground, that runs, I believe, right under the existing church. That we're aware of, that we don't have a lot of information on, other than the city said it's here somewhere, and I don't know where it outlets. So we have it on our plan. We'll have to do additional research to see where it outlets. And I wanted to take one clarification. This is not an SB 9 lot split. This is per zoning. We meet our minimum standards, we can split the lot.
Okay, so you're not, it's not under state law, it's just
Correct.
local.
It's straight zoning.
Okay, great to know. Okay, so I'll hold comments in regards to your responses until comments time. I saw somebody raise their hand in the back, so I'll address that when the time comes. As part of your proposal, do you propose placing, I'll call it a privacy fence or a privacy element along the westerly property line that runs between you and what I believe is Mrs. or Ms. Brisk's property?
Sure, we're completely open to that. Our landscape plan has not been developed yet. It's in progress. As I mentioned, we submitted an initial PLN application. That's something that we're working on right now, and I'm sure that's something we can accommodate.
Okay.
May I add another note about that, sort of related to that? And you could see it on the site plan as well, but just as a note of the, oh, there we go, yeah. So just as a note of distance, so that everyone's clear as to where that hedge is on the property line, and it's about 15 feet plus setback in terms of where the existing church is compared to where everything is. So just so everyone's understanding where the pieces are. And we're not proposing anything in terms of adding in that direction.
Okay. Okay. It looks like you are proposing to use the area underneath the existing oak tree. I'm not going to refer to it as a specimen oak until I see an arborist report, but the large oak tree, that you are proposing to use that as your open yard space. Do you have a general conceptual idea of how you would approach that? Would it be with soft paving, permeable pavers?
It's all under development.
Okay.
It is
So
our
that
intention
would be-
to protect it, and and I think the neighbors had great comments and input, and so surely we'll pass that on to our team.
Okay. So it would obviously be in conformance with any arborist recommendations?
Exactly.
Okay.
We love the oak tree too.
Yeah, it's a great element. Who would not want to keep it? And you are proposing 2 parking spaces, as I understand it, which are covered in the garage that address the parking requirement for the single-family residence. The ADU does not require parking.
Correct.
So, okay. Okay. Okay, those are the questions that I wanted to address for the public speakers. I like this project. At first, I thought it was going to be I thought it was the church that is now McDermott Crockett, and I was like, how are they going to convert that? But then I drove by today, and I went, oh, it's this wonderful little, it's really kind of a hacienda-style home, right? Kind of more than Spanish colonial revival, right? It's very sort of humble and basic, right? I know. I'm going to ask questions. I just wanted to say that I like the project, but so the site grades. It appears to grade up to the what I'll call south or the east, towards the Pueblo side, and that is where you are proposing the garage and the ADU. Is there a retaining wall that runs along that easterly side parallel to what will be the new property line?
I believe there is an existing one, and our civil engineer, I'm sure, will recommend one if that's needed for.
Yeah,
the
there's
grade
probably
change.
about a 3-foot drop from here to here. So right now there is a retaining wall here, so there's probably going to be a retaining wall there, somewhere along the property line right here. So
Okay.
as civil is developing it, we'll have a better next version of plans.
Okay. The stairs with the arch below are on the north side, adjacent to, I believe, or facing Ms. Rice's property, roughly. One of the things I'm struggling with here is that what will be the residence for what is the church, it is kind of this hacienda style where we're used to seeing kind of more of a courtyard in the middle. And we're used to it being on parcels that tend to be larger and associated accessory buildings. I don't want to say accessory structures, but just appurtenant structures that would be related to a hacienda style would also, for the most part, be one story. So I'm trying to understand, and I guess my question is from an architectural standpoint, how can you reconcile the 2-story volume with the one-story hacienda style. It's not, I heard you say, Mr. Grumbine, that it's Spanish colonial revival, but I would disagree. I think that the existing building is more hacienda style. So how from an architectural standpoint, are you reconciling that? I'm trying to understand that.
Yep, a great question. So the way I will justify it is by pointing at Casa de la Guerra, which is hacienda and had a tower originally in the back corner. And that was, in theory, their bank. Now, we had to have clearance here for fire. I agree to some degree. The Spanish colonial revival, we're steering it towards a little bit more. It has the porch, but we're dialing up the detail to kind of get it a little bit out of hacienda and to sort of correspond and coordinate with the two-story element. So where this is the simpler, more hacienda style, and I agree. I think that is at least this is definitely has a strong foot in hacienda, although it's you probably wouldn't find something like this in true hacienda, having an arch and a little more detailing. And yes, you would normally add hacienda. You'd start with a rectangle, you add an L, then you make a U, and then you close it off as your family grows. So I agree with it as a sort of general, but we're kind of steering it towards a little bit more of a Spanish colonial revival with ornamentation, leaving some of it, so sort of pushing it a little more towards that. And while hacienda is unusual to have 2 stories, it isn't unheard of. So I agree, it might be purely architecturally better if we could actually combine them and work it into a holistic plan of an L shape at least. However, it becomes to fire and messing with that existing structure a lot. I don't think that that's the way to go. And I think that sort of dialing this up in the Spanish colonial revival and then having the other one sort of play down from it was a good solution. So it's a tricky situation. We're trying not to mess with it too much. But you're right, it has at least a lot of elements of hacienda that are more so that than Spanish colonial revival.
Okay.
Do you buy that?
Do I buy that?
All right.
I don't know if I'm completely
Casa de la
sold
Guerra
on that,
did it.
Mr. Grumbine, but...
Wallace Neff also did it at the hacienda up above Ojai. There's an example where he builds a 2-story up as part of the hacienda U shape. But anyways,
I
there's enough
can buy
precedent.
that can work. A lot of times it is at a back corner, so it's not the prominent
That's true.
element.
That's true.
How much taller in absolute terms will the ridge line of the 2-story be relative to the ridge line of the existing? And I do appreciate the fact that you've put hipped roofs on this 2-story structure. I think that helps to keep it more diminutive, but...
Yep. And that's exactly why we did too. We studied it as a gable first and then really thought that it should play down. So yeah, so at the eave line, you're looking at I know you didn't ask that, but almost 20, but not quite 20 feet. And then the top is 24.5. And then existing is, I think, 16 or something, although zoning-wise, it can go, of course, much higher.
But are the finished floor heights of the garage or
about the
or
same?
The workshop
Yes.
they're at about the same?
Yep, they're about the same.
Okay, so 24 compared to, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last number.
Here, sorry. There we go. 16.3 is top of ridge.
Okay, so about an 8-foot difference.
Yeah, and part of our thinking for setting it back on the site as well was to try to take into account some of that to still make it more diminutive. And so, let's see, sorry. Yeah, so we could push this forward if we wanted to, but we felt that this being forward and that 16-foot gable here in perspective with it being 20 feet at your plate, which is really where your eye's going to read it, because at 2 stories you only see the edge of the tile on the front. You really won't see a low slope tile roof. So as a comparable, it's only about 4 feet taller and pushed back, and so we were hoping that would give balance to it without redoing this whole thing and actually costing a lot more and being less sustainable.
Okay. And then my last question is there anything aside from desire that is driving the 9-foot plate heights?
It's shorter than 10 foot.
Okay, but there's
yeah,
no
I think-
logistical reason that a 9-foot plate is required for the workshop, or this is my question.
Oh, so that ties to the design of the lower level. I always thought that you were talking about the upper level.
I'm asking for both.
Okay, yeah, so, I mean, typically, we like to have the upper level equal to or less than the lower level as a general practice, because that's traditionally how it's typically done. The ground floor is usually more public, so it's the taller. But we really kept this down to about a decently low level that allows for garage doors to roll up, everything to clear, and to have a decent-sized car in there, height-wise. So that was kind of based on that. If it dropped down to less than that, then both would probably drop down, and it's also starting to get sort of, cramped and less, less gracious of a garage door. And historically, I think a ground floor of a 9-foot plate is about as minimum as it comes in terms of traditional Spanish architecture. So we're kind of going for also a minimum look. If we get much shorter, the garage doors get very horizontal, which is not traditional for we'll call it Spanish architecture.
Okay. Can I see the upper level floor plan real quickly, and then I'm done, and I'll pass the baton here.
So here's the stairs at the back, and then in.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Katie and Miss Dawn?
I just want to make sure
Questions?
that, so the 16,817 square foot lot, that is the lot proposed post-split, correct?
I believe that's the existing lot, and off the top of my head, yeah.
So then what would the FAR be for this?
I ran the FAR post lot split. It's 96% with the ADU and 72 without the ADU
Okay, so
calculation. But it's based
the
on,
FAR percentage in the project description is accurate.
correct.
Okay, got it. Post lot
right. Otherwise,
split,
we'd be
but
much
the
under.
16,000 is not, okay.
Yeah, that is correct. And apologies for that confusion. When I was giving that description, I wasn't aware that there was a lot split. We haven't received a planning case for the submittal that we're looking at today with the lot split already in mind.
So then my question would be, because it's going to be under a $15,000, or not $15,000, sorry.
Don't pay
Doesn't everybody wish?
These aren't 1920s prices, unfortunately.
Less than, I know, right? Less than 15,000 square foot lot, then the FAR would no longer be a guideline FAR, it would be a required FAR.
That is correct. It would be required FAR.
Okay.
And just as clarification, through the vice chair to the applicant team, did you state it was 7,906 square feet of the lot that's currently, or was it 9,100 of?
It had to be 91.
Can we look at the statistic on the cover page,
Yeah.
please?
Apologies for
Yeah, no
this
problem.
confusion here.
It's got to be the 91.
I think we had put both statistics on here just for clarity, but.
Yeah, because I have parcel 1 and parcel 2 only in my records for the planning case that approved the lot split, so I'm just trying to figure out which parcel square footage applies to what parcel.
I don't know that we have it on this cover page, but we should.
Okay.
Oh, we do,
there we
okay.
go. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, what's it? I
Oh, here we go. So existing total acreage, 17,000. Proposed parcel 1, which is the subject parcel, 9,000.
Okay, so it's 9,106. Okay. Is what I-
446.
9,446. Okay, so that is different, okay.
So we're, yeah,
Yeah, I think that
excellent question.
Yeah, thank you all.
is helpful for us. I'm gonna, so many questions have been asked that are great. Have a lot of comments, I know, so I'm done with questions right now. Move it to.
I was going to bypass all my questions, but you just made me think of one. And Heidi, can you just confirm one more time that based on the newly created smaller lot, the proposed development is going to be, without the ADU, 73% 74%.
72%.
Without the ADU, that's what it's going to be. And a question for staff is that if they developed this without the ADU and then came back later and wanted to do an ADU, the ADU would not be a consideration in the FAR, even though we are looking at ADUs as part of the 85%.
It's second story, that's why we're looking at it, not because of
No, yeah, I know it's second story. I'm just saying that if they had come in here without the second story, it would be 74% FAR, and then later, if they came in with just the ADU as a second story, you would not be subject to design review, and then you could just submit it without dealing with FAR at all, and the ADU would not be considered part of the FAR.
I do not, I don't know. I think
Okay.
I would have to do that research.
I thought it was because it's the second story and the main residence is a single story, so either way we have to see it. That's why we're seeing it
Correct.
today.
It's purely because it is second story. When
Right,
it comes
that's why
to,
it's included.
Yeah, well, I have not, I mean, obviously, staff hasn't had the time to research the proposal. Staff hasn't done a review on this.
Okay, got it. It's
So, yeah, I'm not sure how FAR would impact the proposed ADU. I'm sure there are allowances for it, as are other parts of the ADU ordinance, but I don't know enough at this time to confirm.
That's right. I'm just asking the question because I seem to ask this question a lot about ADUs and whether or not they're included in FARs, and
They are always now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Would it be possible for staff to run a FAR calc for us based on the proposed square footage of this project and the resulting lot size so that we have an accurate percentage? Because it doesn't sound like the 97% is accurate
That
based
is-
on what we just heard.
That is correct. The 97% was including the FAR square footage, and I believe.
What do you mean the FAR square footage?
I mean, the overall
sorry.
existing
Yeah,
lot.
the overall, yeah, so I believe we calculated both the FAR and the existing and the garage. I believe. Let me double check the numbers here, and I'm going to try to see if I can run this FAR calculation for you.
So I just want to make sure we're doing this right.
Sure.
So, this is a question to the applicant. I'm sorry, I'm kind of going with this, you guys, or you gals. So the resultant lot size for this was, I thought I saw 9,000 something square feet on your title sheet. Can you, this is a question for the applicant. So the resultant lot is how large?
9,046.
446, that would be the lot size, Mr. Herrick?
That is correct. I actually have the FAR calculation up on my end here.
Why don't we come back to a confirmation of that so we can move forward?
I'm
because we're
asking him
running
if
out of
he can,
time.
I'm asking him if he can do it while we're still asking questions, Ms. Sherry, but I want to make sure he's using the right numbers. So, and then the total proposed is the 2,456. Well, it's the 4,261 square feet, right? Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we can move forward, the board can, with comments. Katie, Ms. Sherry, do you want to start, or Leslie, you want to?
Anybody can start, I'm fine. Go ahead, Katie, go.
Go for it.
Yeah, no, we're here very preliminarily for this one-time pre-app for our comments, however that may be, and so welcome all the public comments. You're right at the beginning of design, and you're with professionals that care, and from what we can tell, all the right steps are in place. So I guess I'm on the comments, but I have positive comments for the your reuse of the church. You're reusing the existing structure and roof and blending it with additional housing, which is needed. It is not down to a single lot. It's a lot and a half. So to me, it's an acceptable solution. My only comment, I believe, is possibly considering the reduction in plate heights. It's primarily a single-story neighborhood, probably 8-foot plate. And I appreciate the setback for sure of the garage, and I don't think that the impact on the street is going to be significant, but I know as you get further in your design that you'll be looking at all of those items.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Who's next? Leslie? Dawn?
I really like the idea. I really like the adaptive reuse idea here. Guess echoing Mr. Bloom's comments. I think it's a great way to reintroduce housing here. You're providing the required parking, which I think is great. I would like to see plate heights brought down. I would like to, and I think there's opportunity for that on the second floor. I'm seeing this bump out on the second floor, so maybe you could have a lower 7-foot plate at that outside wall and still have a decent height inside. I would be interested in you exploring the idea of more space between the accessory structure and the main residence to try to recreate that courtyard idea and how that could be integrated with the oak tree. I don't know if that means slightly reconfiguring the accessory structure so it's a little bit more long and linear. I don't know what the solution is there, but I think it would be nice if there were more reprieve and more of those outdoor uses occurred between the two structures rather than at the back corner of the lot. I think it would be a kind thing to do for your northerly neighbor so that that area underneath the oak tree remained kind of a quiet place of solace and silence, and the more active things that occur on the property would occur between the existing church and the secondary uses. I'm in support of the hipped roofs, even though it deviates from the existing structure for the accessory structure. In light of the information that's come out, though, I am concerned about our FAR, and right now I'm going to withhold comments about that until we get a number from Mr. Herrick.
Okay, I'm going to jump in. Agree with a lot of that's what's been said, and appreciate all the public comments that we got. Some is in our purview, some is not. I always encourage you to, work with neighbors and everyone to get on the same page there. Overall, in support of the project, however, just looking at these numbers, I'm worried a lot about the FAR number because we've seen 4,000 square foot house on half an acre, and the FAR is pretty large. So I'm worried about that. And that's just a number we use as a guiding factor. It's really about overall bulk and scale, but it's definitely something we use in terms of neighborhood context and development. Let's say that does hover around a lower number or something under the 85%. I'd still like to see the second story ADU, like a reduction in place height, similar to what Vice Chair Anderson mentioned. Just in relation to the single story. And I don't know if I have any other new comments, so I think I'm just going to leave it at that.
I was waiting for the chair.
Miss Sherry, please.
So what is that number, that FAR number? To the best of your ability.
Yeah, would you mind switching? So this is the FAR calculator we use. I use the zone lot R3. I did not have time to confirm if that is what was split in the previous planning case. Again, I haven't had the time to research this. The floor lot provided was 9,446 square feet for net lot area. That's for the parcel. And the total proposed without the ADU is 3,337 net floor area. So I added the church building plus the addition plus the garage. This is without the ADU, without 844 square feet, and a 9% slope for the site from what I have in my records. We are looking at 94% maximum required FAR.
But you just got through telling us that the FAR includes the ADU.
Right, so I'm just going to present both. I said that I believe we calculated it. I need to confirm with other staff members. I don't recall off the top of my head here.
Okay, that's all right.
I apologize
I get
for
it,
that.
under
Yeah.
pressure, and you're not the planner.
Yes, and
I think you're going to be over 100% FAR.
That's-
And it's mandatory because the lot is less than 15,000 square feet. So it's not like it's up to us. So
yeah,
that's the biggest thing you're going to have to resolve.
This is why we come early.
Huh?
This is why we come early,
yeah,
That's
and
why
and
you come early?
to come see
to
you.
conceptual review.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't even have gotten to us. We shouldn't even be having this conversation, honestly. But we are, so we're not going to have it anymore. We're going to let you guys figure it out. I agree with Board Member Colossus' statement about if there's any way you can reduce the plate height on one of the other levels. And I'm not entirely sure that the 9 foot is a de facto Spanish colonial like plate height. I know a lot of Spanish homes that have 8 foot and even 6 foot high plates. So and the only reason I'm saying that is because I think that because it's a 2-story stacked building, which I think is entirely appropriate for Spanish colonial revival. The taller plates are exacerbating the overall height. And somewhat could be, if you can come up with the examples that are 100 years old that have all have 9 foot plate heights and prove me wrong, then great, that would be awesome. But I think that I like the design, and I think that if done correctly with the right proportions, I think it is going to look like it's always been there. I think it's going to look like something that was built in the 1920s and the 1930s, and that's the thing that I noticed right away when you presented it, and that's why I can support the project. I think it's going to be nice for the neighborhood. So.
Apologies for the interruption again. I was able to get clarification from other zoning staff that the ADU for this project would be included in the FAR calculations, but it wouldn't count towards the FAR modification if it exceeds over 100%. So that's what I'm being told here. So I'm sorry for the confusion. Again, I did not research this project in depth. This was something that was given to me to schedule. So I appreciate your patience.
I don't even want you to try to clarify what you just said, because it does add to the confusion. So
It might be, and this would be a question as it goes forward for staff, it might be that it because of the FAR, it triggers things, but it also can't be stopped by the total amount. You can't stop with ADU, but it might kick it into design review or other things. So we'll have to clarify.
Yes, yeah, we'll be
we're
able
gonna
I think there's
be
certain
over
categories it probably
100%,
trips into,
you
but other
won't be
categories it
required
doesn't.
to do
So
a
it's
zoning
mess,
of
but
an FAR
ADUs are
mod
like
for
that.
it.
Yes, ADUs have a lot of unique, because of the recent pass and state laws, there's lots of unique variations with ADUs that don't normally apply to how we usually process zoning modifications when it comes to FAR, residential additions, and things like that. So I really appreciate your patience, and thank you all.
So do we need to go through and formalize our one-time app comments? We can. I mean, we just went through the board. I know
Yes.
You're supposed to do a motion?
Not necessarily a motion, but you can say the board.
The board generally is, well, actually, we're all in acceptance of the submittal and supports the project.
Yeah, I was going to say that the board is generally in support of the project, pending FAR clarification and data analysis and confirmation, and that the board would appreciate the applicant studying the proposed plate heights for the proposed garage and ADU, and continue to work on, I don't know, augmenting
Neighbors.
or providing privacy for the neighbors in the form of maintaining fences and/or constructing new fences and hedges. I don't know, what else?
Yeah, I
Anything
would
else?
just encourage communication with the neighbors
Yeah.
over privacy issues, potential noise issues, drainage issues, which are clearly a concern for everybody. The oak tree, I think, will flush itself out already. I'm in support of the project, but if we're bumping up against, 100% or 98% FAR, I would want to see the project without the ADU closer to guideline, since it will be a required guideline FAR post lot split. So I would want to see that number closer to 85%, exclusive of the ADU. And I think there's opportunity for that. It may affect program a little bit, but I think there's opportunity for that. I'm in support of the hipped roofs. I would add those comments if it's acceptable.
That's fine.
Okay.
Those are just our comments.
Yeah, we're not allowed to have open.
I will be able to, I'll talk with the applicants shortly after the transfer, and when the fourth item begins, I can give you some more information on that. Thank you.
So thank you very much for coming in with
Thank
your
you.
Thank you.
application to let us preview. Thank you.
I hope we completely, thoroughly
We
confused
look
you.
forward to your, yeah, right. We look forward to your next submittal.
All right.
All right, do we need a recess, team?
I'm okay.
Are we okay? We have another item. Are we leaving?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the comment, so I want to make sure we can have quorum in case it runs over, but hopefully we'll have a good chunk of time for at least some questions and comments for me. I have to leave right at 6 o'clock on the dot.
Hello.
Okay, so we will begin item number 4. This is a new item here for concept review, 224 Loyola Drive. This is a proposal to construct an 864 square foot second-story addition to an existing 1,575 square foot.
Oh,
If you wouldn't mind going out into the hallway.
excuse me to the audience members, if you're not in the room for this item, if you could take your conversation out into the hallway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I forget where I was. A single-story, single-unit residence located in the coastal zone, non-appealable jurisdiction. The existing 423 square foot attached garage and detached shed will remain. The project includes a 590 square foot patio, 74 square foot balcony, 157 square foot balcony, replacing driveway material, new 42-inch driveway, gate and fence, landscape and hardscape. The proposed total of 2,860 square feet of development on an 8,527 square foot lot is 86% of the required maximum floor to lot area ratio. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. Okay. So if you can make sure your microphone is on and state your name for the record and then walk us through your project.
And
Oh, yeah, you've got
but
staff
so, yeah,
comments.
pardon my interruption. Yeah, just a staff comment here is because we are over that 85% of the required FAR for this project. I just wanted to put to the board if they wanted to waive those FAR requirements. That would be helpful to include in the comments, and I can bring them up if needed. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Nate Nicodemus of Nicodemus Design, and I'm the project designer for 224 Loyola. So as mentioned in the brief, it's a second-story addition, and just to give a little bit of background, this project was designed in phases. The first floor is a remodel, and it is currently under construction. Originally, the owner thought the second floor addition would be much further out, and she was able to do it a little sooner, which is why I'm here now. But this submittal is purely for the second floor. It's a contemporary update with the first floor footprint staying pretty much the same with the neighborhood development pattern. It's a contemporary design where the second floor steps in from the perimeter walls to kind of reduce scale and mass and taper the building a little bit. It has a warm wood eave soffit, a knife edge eave, and warm stucco cladding with black windows. This is the front rendering, and here is the rear of the property. This is the survey prior to the first floor remodel that is currently undergoing. So this section right here of the building is a non-conforming addition. It wasn't permitted prior to when my client bought the property. We've since removed it. There was also a bunch of mold damage that has been remediated. So as you can see, this double crosshatch is the second floor, and the single diagonal hatch is the first floor. So I tried to step in the second floor as much as possible to reduce a looming presence to the neighborhood. So this is the first floor, which isn't technically a part of this submittal. Here's a second floor design. So the street fronting ocean view balcony is built into the architecture of the home as encouraged by the Single Family Design Board guidelines. Here's the roof. It's a hip roof, low pitch, similar to what's existing. If I go back to the survey, both of the neighboring homes are L-shape, and the windows on the second floor face south towards the ocean, taking advantage of the views, but also it is advantageous for privacy. It sees over the neighboring property. There aren't that many windows on the northern side, which would be disadvantageous for the neighbor and privacy alignment. The front balcony that faces the street, which my understanding is more desirable than a large rear balcony, is in alignment with the driveway, so it doesn't loom over any occupied space. I can show you some existing photos. Oh. Here. This is the existing home, partially under construction. A lot to go still. Neighboring property, it's a mixture of single-story and two-story homes. There's a handful of different design languages throughout the neighborhood. The rear of the property. That's where that piece was removed that wasn't supposed to be there. The rear lot is a 3 lots in depths. It's a very large lot, the lot to the rear of our property. So pretty much our entire rear property line faces an abnormally large yard for the neighborhood. This is the house to the south. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. I think that's it.
Okay, well, we'll actually go to public comment next.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular item. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, please fill one out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so. Ah, we do have someone coming. Great. Thank you. You'll have 2
Hi.
minutes to speak.
Hi, my name's Joe Lacardis. I am the neighbor behind with that large lot. This is the first time I've had a chance to see any renderings. My initial concerns are going to be with hedges along that rear yard property line of his that he's representing, which would be the eastern property line. And it looks like they've already done plantings. I don't see that there's any landscape plan yet. We're concerned about how wide the hedge will be, how tall the hedge will be, whether or not they should hold the hedge far enough away from the existing fence on the rear property line so it doesn't grow through, because many of the hedges around us are allowed to grow through the fences up to 3 to 4 feet, and it becomes a maintenance problem, as is the height. I don't know if anybody's maintaining 8-foot hedge heights anymore, but that would be a concern of ours, whether or not they plan on maintaining a hedge height. I'm looking at the design facing the street, and it's massive. Nothing on that street, Loyola, has that kind of presentation. I don't know what their plate heights are. Anything above 8 foot is outside of the conformity with the neighborhood. And that second-story addition is so large, extending in the back on stilts really becomes really massive looking from the back. So we're a little concerned with that. Overall, I'm just reacting now to having seen it for the first time. So that's my comments.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we will move on to virtual comment, which at this time I see no hands raised for this particular item. And we will move on to correspondence, of which we will take the notes written by Mr. Lacardis and put them into record. And with that, I will turn this back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, perfect. We will start with questions from the board. Board Member Kalas, any questions?
Yeah, it looks like you're maintaining an 8-foot plate height on the first floor. Is the second floor, did I read it right? It's about 8.5-foot plate height?
Correct. The increased handful of inches was to accommodate some deeper beams that were required for the design.
Okay. You addressed my question about what's happening, because I went out there today and I'm like, wait a minute, why are we seeing this? And it's like under construction, but the
It's a
phasing
bit
was helpful.
confusing.
Thank you for addressing that.
No
That's great. Maybe you could address the public commenter's question about the hedges along the easterly property line or your rear property line. And I mean, I understand that the fence hedge ordinance requires that you maintain those at 8 feet or lower. And a complaint could always be proffered by the neighbor. But can you speak to the location where you've apparently, or the owner has apparently planted hedging, and how far off the property line it is roughly?
Sure. Again, I'm not the builder, so I can't speak specifically to what's being done right now. But
Yeah, maybe just approximate based on observations.
I know that there are 2 fences on the property, one on the property line and one pulled in. And it looks like from the last time I was there are some form of hedges on both fence lines. I'm not sure of the height from memory.
Okay.
I can show the photo actually.
Do you
of
know
the
about
rear.
how far off of property line that is? The
The
hedging?
that black fence that you see in this photo, which
Mhm.
is the property line that he's referring to,
Mhm.
is right on the property line, or
Okay.
an inch or two on our side.
Okay, and then I'm hearing that there's either been hedging planted already or proposed for that rear property line. And so I'm just trying to find out how far off the property line that's been planted or is proposed to be planted.
It's been nothing based off of something I've submitted, so
Okay.
I can't say definitively.
Okay.
And I'd be going off of memory of walking through the site, not looking for that specifically.
Okay, that's a fair answer. Thank you. Could we go to the, could we go to the exterior elevations, please?
Sure. This should show the approved permit down below, the one-story remodel, and then what I'm proposing outlined in red above.
Can we look at the, I guess it would be the southerly exterior elevation?
Sure.
Okay. That's the easterly.
Oh, southerly, sorry.
It's the previous page.
Yep.
Okay. So can you talk to me a little bit about the balcony and the covering over that? It's a pretty extended roof covering.
Sure.
I'm wondering what's driving that.
Yeah, it was a contemporary design move. A lot of contemporary designs incorporate cantilevered features and stretched out eaves to control shade. The client, the owner, loves indoor-outdoor feeling spaces, and a lot of that can be accomplished with larger openings and larger eaves to appropriately condition that space. I purposefully kept the line of the solid portion of the balcony guardrail at the window sill height so as to not let that be too much of a privacy concern. And that balcony is also primarily, let me go to the second floor, meant to extend the primary bedroom space and feel more of like an outdoor environment. But it isn't very deep, and it's much more of a quiet space, maybe a coffee in the morning, and not much more.
Okay. And how far is the southern portion of that balcony relative to the southerly property line?
Yeah, I
How
apologize
far
for not
away is
having that on plan, but I did write that down. So the balcony off the primary bedroom is 25 foot 8 3/4 from the east or rear property line. It's 17 foot 10 inches from the south or side property line, and 44 foot 9 inches from the north side property line.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my only questions.
Okay, Board Member Anderson, any questions?
Okay, I'm going to try to keep it conceptual, but so you're stepping in on this one side. What is your distance from the property line on your step in of the second story? On that
What is
closer, I guess that lower.
this
yes,
wall right here?
Yes, 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 yes.
That wall, it aligns with the balcony, so it's 17 foot 10 inches.
Okay, sweet. Okay, and I'm going to not ask a whole lot of questions about stopping construction on the first floor and all of that permit for the second floor, because that's another issue. And I'm not going to get into the neighbor privacy, landscape, noise, and lighting. That'll follow. But I'm assuming that you will get to communicating with the neighbors on all sides
Absolutely.
to address our neighborhood guidelines. And I would love to see and always like to see the adjacent property footprints so that, it helps us make our findings, that you've addressed those neighborhood guidelines. So the footprints and if you're really good, like the uses of what, how they relate to what you're doing on your site. A street silhouette would really help too, so that we can see how your two-story relates
We'll
to.
get into some comments later.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
Just
you're
questions. Okay, thanks. Okay. Any questions over here?
I just,
Sorry, I'll let you have. Okay.
yes, one, I'm trying to figure out how I want to articulate this as best as possible, but any thoughts around like additional planting or something to kind of soften the chimney element in the front? If you want to pull that up, that might be helpful too. And if not, that's fine. Just wanted to cover that.
This element right here, to be honest, originally I proposed the chimney and planter as a stone, a warm stone, but it was chosen to be not pursued for cost reasons. But I think if it was a sticking point here, I could potentially bring that back onto the table.
That's it for me.
Did you have other questions?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. And then there's no proposed landscape as a part of this work. It's just the second floor. Okay.
Correct.
And then was there any study of, instead of extending the second floor out into the backyard, but just keeping it within the footprint of the first floor?
Given the program desires and also the experiential goals of the client, that didn't seem like a worthwhile pursuit.
Okay. And then I'm kind of piggybacking onto the previous question, but it sounds like the extended overhang is an architectural move on the second floor, but not necessarily something needed for shading or things like that. The portion of it that extends past the balcony itself.
Just to clarify, the floor or the eave?
The eave, sorry, thanks.
The eave is an architectural feature in providing shading for the second floor.
Okay. I think we can move to comments now, and as a part of those comments, be sure to address what you'd like to see as a part of the FAR guidelines. If we'll start with Board Member Claus.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see this brought into conformance with required maximum FARs, which would be a very small reduction to 85%. I think that the cladding of the front vertical element and softening of it in some way would be helpful, whether that's done with a maybe more earth tone or darker color plaster, or whether that's done with a stone cladding or a slump block or something. I think that would give it some more visual interest. I appreciate the applicant's restraint in terms of plate heights, and I think that 8.5 feet on the second floor is not out of place. I think the hip roofs are in keeping with the general nature of the neighborhood. I do have some concerns about the eave element on the east side. I don't think it's honestly going to provide much shading given the fact that it is on the east. You've got low light there. It's not until it really comes around on the south that it's going to provide any meaningful shading. I can appreciate the desire for some cover there, so that someone could sit out there in the evening and maybe not get dripped on by, some dew. But I think that it could be pulled back. And I think that, I think I saw a dimension of 5.5 feet for the depth of that deck. And I think the eave should co-relate to that as opposed to extending much beyond it. I appreciate the fact that you stepped the volume of the second floor back on the south side for the most part. I don't really see any privacy issues with the fenestration on either of the side yard property lines. And the decks appear to meet guideline. So I can support the decks. I I won't say anything about the second floor volume extending beyond the footprint of the existing home. I'll leave that for somebody else. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, Board Member Anderson?
Commenting on
Comments.
I mean, I still, again, would like to see the adjacent neighbor footprints. I would like to see the street silhouettes. We have a survey, I'm probably okay with that without the site sections. If you reduce the FAR down, then probably can avoid, I don't know what, but I still would like to see both of those items, actually, even if you do reduce. It just helps us make our findings.
Okay, Board Member Sherry?
Just, now I'm back to a question that I didn't think I had before, but now I'm asking myself, maybe you guys answered it when I stepped out of the room, but why is the chimney so high?
It's existing.
Correct.
Oh,
I can show you the photo of the,
so here's my question. Does it have to be that big? Can you, since you're doing so much to this house, it just seems it's dominating this entire structure. And
Yeah.
just because it's existing, like, you don't, if it looks like it meets the requirement, even if you have a building behind it, it looks like you're far enough away that you don't need it to be that tall. And because it's kind of out there on its own, it's just kind of just out there. And
I
it
know, I
looks-
think aesthetically it's worth studying, but I don't know if it's cost prohibitive or anything, so.
Yeah, I just, so that's my comment, is that I think that the chimney now looks like a remnant of the past that wasn't fully addressed, because it doesn't, even if it's a wood-burning fireplace, it looks like it's far enough away. Do you have 10? Yeah. So,
so it is a wood-burning fireplace, and so it would need to be 2 feet above anything within 10 feet, which would hit that railing. But if I switched it to a gas direct vent, I might be able to reduce.
yeah, so
The
that's
chimney
that's
height.
my only comment, is like, is just that it being that close to the front and it's being in plaster, it doesn't seem like it's doing anything for you. And I like the design, and I don't think that that is helping it.
I can discuss that with my client.
We agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, I am super familiar with this neighborhood. I walk the street all the time. I'm really excited to see this house turned around. It was not in a good spot before, so really excited. I think the project overall is great. I think it's the 23 feet is like the highest point, which is really modest for this neighborhood. I don't have a problem. I mean, it sounds like most do want, I want to actually know Board Member Sherry and Lewis's opinion on this. Yeah, on the FAR requirements. I personally don't need them. Being familiar with the neighborhood, I don't know as many 2 stories on that side of the street. I think on the other side of the street, there's a couple directly across that have a pretty similar footprint and height and just overall program. So just food for thought for the board to think about that, if we're requiring the silhouettes. But just the chimney is the one element to me that just kind of sticks out. I think I'm open on the eave. That's not something I think about as much, so I'm happy to go with the flow with the board on that one, on the back, as well as the second story footprint. I don't really have a strong opinion either way on that, but overall, like I said, I'm really in support of the project.
Yeah, if we want to take a quick straw poll on whether we think street silhouettes are necessary, I think one thing they've shown probably the most minimal height of the actual plate height for the second story. So the only thing that it would impact is really the roof pitch. And right now that aligns with the first floor. So we'll just go down the line if you think they need to do a street silhouette. No? No.
I would still like to see them. I mean,
They're helpful, but I don't
Yes.
think it needs to be a requirement then based on the average. Okay, and then what about, were there any other ones recommended?
I'm sorry, did we complete the straw poll for that item, or?
Yes.
Okay, did
It was,
everybody go?
4 no's and 1 yes.
Ah,
Thank
thank you. Sorry, that went whoosh.
Thanks. But I do agree with Board Member Claus that I would recommend You're So Close getting it down to the 85%. But I'm open. I think from a size, bulk, and scale perspective, that's really felt from the street elevation. And I feel like you've done your best on pushing it back and minimizing it there. I'm torn on the back eave because part of it is that it just makes the building feel so much larger and like it wants to tip over a little bit. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to give it a little bit more either sturdiness in its feeling, but the part I'm torn on, it's a backyard, and I don't know how visible it is from the public view. So if anyone else has thoughts on that.
Yeah, I have the same struggle. It feels like the whole second floor is shifted, which makes the house feel visually unstable, like you're saying, but it is in the backyard, and I don't know, aside from the southerly neighbor, I don't know who's ever going to really read that.
Right, and it's so
Yeah.
far back from the back property. Okay. And then I'm curious the board's thoughts. It sounds like landscape's not a part of this scope, and so don't need to make it that.
I think that if the landscape looks like that rendering, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Is there landscape?
Yeah, you can ask.
Is there so there's no landscape plan with the current renovation, correct?
No, I don't have a landscape architect on board.
Oh, I think we need it to look like that.
Yeah, I did the rendering. I'd love for it to look like that.
So you need a plan that shows
need to
it like
convince-
based on what the house looks like now.
Even if it's well, I'm just confused a little bit because the first floor, the one-story building and its landscape was approved previously. So what's in our purview?
Was there landscape in the
So-
first floor plan?
So to clarify, perhaps the applicant can answer for the first floor plan. I will look for it. But to answer the second question is, again, we're very limited to always the scope of work that's presented here for us. And I believe that in the scope of work for this, I'm looking at it right now, reading it. It does say replacing driveway material, new 42-inch driveway, gate and fence, landscape and hardscape. So.
Okay. Well, then if that's the case, then I think we're in agreement that if those are part of the scope of work, then we're going to need to see a plan, a landscape plan, and what that looks, or that is not part of the scope. Do we agree?
Yeah, I think it needs a landscape plan. I mean, based on the photos that I've seen, that place was waterlogged. There's a property behind it that sits lower. I think I think we need a landscape
This whole
plan.
project, yeah, they should
showing.
want.
I know they should want. I'm just also making sure
I think
what's
we
in
should
yes.
push for that.
Which also, it says in the scope, the new driveway, gate, and fence, which we'd want to see elevated in materials for as well.
Okay.
So. I know, that's what I'm saying, is because it's part of the scope, we're going to need a landscape plan and details of that because it's part of the scope. Okay.
For PDA.
Correct, okay. Does anyone want to make a motion? Otherwise, I will summarize our responses. Okay. So I move to continue this project indefinitely with the following comments, that the board is generally in support of the second-story addition, given its setback from the perimeter and the low plate height of the second floor, and keeping with the same materials of the first floor. The board would recommend a study of the chimney size and material, and recommends softening in some way of the overall massing or material. It was recommended either a darker plaster, stone, or reduce in height. The board recommends meeting an 85% FAR. The board is split on recommending a street silhouette showing adjacent neighboring houses and the slope of the street. And the board recommends studying the rear eave. I'll leave it at that. To reduce the overall massing.
I just want to clarify, when the board split on the street silhouette, I think it'd be helpful if you called out the numbers.
I think the straw poll will be listed above
Okay,
in the minutes.
great.
Mhm.
So what does that mean as an applicant for the direction? It shouldn't be on there if they failed the straw vote.
Don't
It
list
should
it.
not even be on there at all, in my opinion.
Okay.
I
you
think we
can
could just memorialize that the majority of the board does not feel that it's required.
Correct.
Okay, if you can change the comment to say that, the majority of the board does not think it's required to do a street silhouette.
I'll second the motion, and I would like to suggest that we add the requirement for a landscape planting
Oh my gosh,
plan.
thank you.
Yes, and also reviewing the neighborhood guidelines when you come back for PDA to address privacy. Landscaping is a part of it, noise and lighting. Is that acceptable?
So if the maker of the motion has accepted those conditions, I
accept
will
those
re-second the
conditions.
motion.
Thank you. We'll take a roll call. Yes.
Vice Chair Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Claus?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Great, thank you.
that ends our March 25th meeting and the last meeting with Board Member Kalas. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.